In the last video, I went over every major war the USA has been involved in, from the Revolutionary War to the Spanish-American War. So today I'll be going over every major war the USA has been involved in since the Spanish-American War to the present day. This is part 2. Philippine-American War, 1899 to 1902. After the Spanish-American War, the Philippines, which used to be a Spanish colony, declared independence. However, the USA was not happy about this, and war soon followed. It ended after the Philippine President Emilio Aguinaldo was captured by U.S. forces in 1902, and the USA began its occupation of the Philippines, which it lasted till 1945. Banana Wars, 1898 to 1934. These weren't really fought over bananas, that'd be really stupid. These were just a series of occupations by the United States from Central American countries and Caribbean countries. They're called the Banana Wars because fruit companies would often keep their supply chains intact by financing guerrilla warfare in these countries and supporting governments. Franklin Delano Roosevelt pulled out all troops from these countries in 1934 to end the Banana Wars. World War I, 1914 to 1918. After the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand and his wife, Europe was plunged into war. The USA stayed neutral because of its isolationist policies, but after incidents such as the sinking of the Lusitania and the Zimmerman telegram, President Woodrow Wilson declared war. General John J. Pershing was sent to command U.S. forces in Europe, taking place in famous battles such as the taking of St. Mihiel Salient and the Meuse-Argonne offensive. The Treaty of Versailles was not ratified by U.S. Congress, saying that they wanted to return back to traditional isolationist policies. This would not be the case. World War II, 1939 to 1945. The USA didn't get involved at first because it was still recovering from the Great Depression, but after the bombing of Pearl Harbor by the Japanese, the USA declared war on the Axis powers, which were Nazi Germany, Japan, and Italy. U.S. generals commanded D-Day, which was the mainland invasion of Nazi Europe, and ended up defeating Italy and fighting Japan in the Pacific, taking all of the islands except mainland Japan itself. It ended up dropping 2 atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, which were Japanese cities, to end the war. Korean War, 1950 to 1953. After Korea used to be occupied by Japan, after World War II, it was divided by the 30th parallel, with a communist North Korea and a capitalist South Korea. North Korean forces invaded in 1950, hoping to reunify Korea, and U.S. troops and South Korean forces were forced to retreat. General Douglas MacArthur, who was a war hero, was sent to command U.S. troops in Busan, beginning an offensive which pushed the North Koreans back to the Yalu River near China. Mao Zedong, premier of the Chinese Communist Party, felt that U.S. troops might invade China as well and sent troops to push back the U.S. forces. MacArthur pushed them back, and soon they met at the 30th parallel again. An armistice was signed to end the war, and since there was no peace treaty, the war technically never ended, and a DMZ was established between the border of the 2 Koreas and is one of the most dangerous places today. Vietnam War, 1955 to 1975. After Vietnamese independence after World War II from the French, Vietnam, like Korea, was divided between the 17th parallel, with the Communist North and the Capitalist South. Ho Chi Minh, leader of the North Vietnamese, invaded South Vietnam, in hopes of reunifying the country. The United States ended up supporting South Vietnam, while the Soviet Union supported the Communist North Vietnam. The war was very unpopular in the USA, especially during the Civil Rights Movement, and the Paris Peace Accords were signed, withdrawing all U.S. troops from Vietnam. Saigon, the capital of South Vietnam, would eventually be taken by North Vietnamese forces in 1975. After this, the USA would occasionally combat communist insurgencies and civil wars in Southeast Asia and South America, and would often send troops to Lebanon in the Lebanese Civil War and have the occasional conflict with Libya. Invasion of Panama, 1989 to 1990. It was an invasion of Panama, which used to be under U.S. control, to depose dictator Manuel Noriega, who previously worked with the CIA during the Cold War. They wanted to depose Manuel Noriega because he was accused of drug trafficking and drug smuggling, and he was deposed, and the Democratic elected President Guillermo Andara was put into office. This would be the first major action on the war on drugs. Gulf War, 1990 to 1991. After the invasion of Kuwait by Iraqi forces, the USA wanted to repel Iraq and soon invaded Iraq itself, taking back Kuwait. Saddam Hussein, leader of Iraq, was not deposed by U.S. forces, but the U.S. claimed victory instead, and a no-fly zone was established in Iraq. Bosnian War, 1992 to 1995. After the breakup of the former Communist Republic of Yugoslavia, all the independent states were plunged into war in the Yugoslav Wars. Serbia, the biggest one, wanted to hold on to power, and it began ethnic cleansing of Bosnian Muslims and ended up sieging the city of Sarajevo, Bosnia's capital. NATO, led by the US, involved air strikes on Sarajevo, ending the war, and the Dayton Peace Accords were signed between Serbia and NATO to end the war. War on Terror, 2001 to present. After the 9/11 attacks, the Bush administration declared war on all terrorists and overthrew the Afghani government, the Taliban, which was accused of supporting Osama bin Laden in the 9/11 attacks. Bin Laden would soon be assassinated in 2011. U.S. forces are still involved in the Middle East today, combating extremist groups such as ISIS. However, the USA is beginning to withdraw troops from the region as the war grows more unpopular. Iraq War, 2003 to 2011. The USA invaded Iraq because they thought Iraq had weapons of mass destruction. They quickly invaded the country and toppled Saddam Hussein's dictatorship regime. However, a civil war would soon follow between extremist groups and the Iraqi government. The USA withdrew troops in 2011 over unpopularity of the war, but soon pulled them in to Iraq after the rise of ISIS. The USA to this day is involved in Libya, Yemen, Syria, and a bunch of countries in Africa. From the British Empire to the Afghanistan, we've been through a lot of wars and made a lot of enemies. I know I didn't include every single war, but at least I got all the major ones. And the wars we have been involved in have changed the world for the better or the worse.